Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
October 29, 2020, the FCPA Day. And we begin with a couple of FCPA stories. First, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Dylan Tokar reporting that Beam Suntory has agreed to a $19.5 million criminal penalty to resolve a criminal probe into its bribes paid into India. It's an interesting case for several reasons, not the least of which this comes 2 years after Beam settled related civil claims with the SEC for $8.2 million. This certainly would seem to go against the one pie concept or the anti-piling on concept, but one can only conclude that Beam Suntory did not want a criminal plea and actively fought against it. So clearly pretty inane conduct by Beam Suntory. I suppose that waiting 2 years and costing $19.5 million really doesn't matter to them. But the fine was a result of several factors. The gravity of its offense, heightened by the involvement of high-level employees, one in the company's legal department. The company also failed to cooperate fully and for several years really even refused to accept responsibility for the bribery allegations. So, stupid is as stupid does. Next up, from the Department of Justice press release, the former president of Transportation Logics International, who was found guilty at trial last year, was sentenced to 48 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release for his role in a scheme to bribe Russian officials in exchange for obtaining contracts. Convicted in November 2019, boy, that seemed a long time ago. After a 3-week trial, he was sentenced by the court. There are 2 other defendants who pled guilty in this matter, and they are one's awaiting sentence, and one was sentenced to 48 months. So pretty good day for the Department of Justice and the settlement of an FCPA case and the sentencing of another. You have to give PayPal credit because it is putting its money where its mouth is, and that it will now put $50 billion into Black and Latino-owned investment firms. 8 Black and Latino-led venture capital firms were part of a $530 million initiative to combat systemic racism and police brutality. The payment giants had been thinking about how to erase the racial wealth gap, and something obviously other companies have addressed, but hit upon the support of Black and Latino-led venture capital firms. The investors will provide crucial capital to entrepreneurs at a stage that PayPal itself can't. It invests in Series A funding, and these are focused on businesses that are largely ignored. So kudos to PayPal for putting together this program. True power and independence is economic power and independence, so you have to give them credit for that. And finally, apparently the ICE, Department of Homeland Security, is not aware that a First Amendment existed because the Trump administration settled a high-profile lawsuit with 3 Latino activists who were doing farm worker organizing, and ICE, of course, attempted to deport them. It really shows the invidiousness of ICE and how they treat anyone in their path. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.